بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله الذي جعل البيت العتيق مثابتا للناس وأمنا وأكرمه بالنسبة إلى نفسه تشريفا وتخصيصا ومنا وجعل زيارته وتوافى به حجابا بين العبد وبين العذاب ومجنا وصلاة على محمد نبي الرحمة والسيد الأمة. اللهم صل أفضل صلاة على أسعد مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك وذكره الغافلون وعلى آله وصحبه قادة الحق وسادة الخلق وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is our third session. Inshallah, in this session, we're going to discuss the real manasik of Hajj as they start. We left ourselves on Yawm Al Tarwiyah. If you remember, it was the 8th of Zil Hijjah. So let's start from there. 8th of Zil Hijjah, if you remember, was called Yawm Al Tarwiyah. This was the day that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam saw that vision. Ra'a, from the Tarwiyah is from Ra'a, he saw. This is the day that the pilgrims now formally set off to the Hajj journey. I mentioned that it is mustahab, that it is advised that they travel by foot for every step that they take. It is 700 good deeds, and every good deed is 100,000 good deeds. So imagine the multiplication per step you take as you leave Mecca walking towards Mina. It is also advised that every pilgrim should be walking mulabbiyan. Mulabbiyan, of course, reading the talbiyah. Reading the talbiyah out loud this time. Of course, not shouting, but in a voice that is audible to yourself. As we reach Mina, the first thing when you see the campsite of Mina, the first thing that should come to our mind, remember now we're going to discuss the spiritual aspects of everything. So as we see the campsite of Mina in front of us, the first thing that should, the white camps, everything looking very similar, the Hajis all dressed up in white, it should bring to mind the equality of human beings and the purpose that everybody is there for. The purpose is at the end of the day to seek forgiveness by the end of this journey, and hoping and praying that we enter paradise without any accountability, without any hisab, as we say. And it doesn't matter at the time whether what you have in your bank or what you don't have in your bank, what assets you have or you don't have. Here you are equal. You are equal, and the only thing that will actually distinguish you is not what you have brought with you, is how you will leave. You may have brought a lot of baggage with you. It is how you will leave. Will you leave with forgiveness or not? So this is the first thing that should come to mind as we are entering Mina. As you enter Mina, there are some masur duas. Whenever I use the word masur, I will mean something that has been transmitted either by the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or from the Salaf. The dua is Allahumma hazihi Mina. Oh Allah, this is Mina. فَمْنِنْ عَلَيَّ بِمَا مَنَنْتَ بِهِ عَلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِكَ وَأَهْلِ طَاعَتِكَ. Oh Allah, this is Mina. Bestow upon me what you bestowed upon those who you chose as your friends and who obeyed you. So we are asking Allah to include us in those that Allah has chosen. So this is the first dua that we do. And then remember, Mina is called Mina because this is where the blood of the sacrifice will flow. Mina means literally to flow. So the sacrificial animals, this is where the sacrifice will happen. Hence, it is called Mina. Another thing, the Mina is, there is Masjidul Khaif here. Masjidul Khaif is very, very significant because in Masjidul Khaif, is where Rasulullah ﷺ stayed, but before Rasulullah ﷺ, every prophet of Allah has actually stayed in Masjid al-Khaif and visited it at some point or another. So this is the significance of Mina. Another important thing that happened in Mina, which we should think about, is that the pledge of Aqabah took place here. This is when Rasulullah ﷺ felt that he was himself and the mission of Islam was in danger, and the Ansar came along and they pledged to Rasulullah ﷺ their allegiance that they will help Rasulullah ﷺ when the time comes. So this is another thing that should come to our mind when we are there in Mina. Mina is also important because this is where Sayyidina Ibrahim showed complete submission and trust in Allah. He pelted the shaitan 3 times right there, and every time after 7 stones the shaitan melted and disappeared into the earth. There are very clear ahadith that how he was urged to transgress by the shaitan, and how 3 times he stopped, and then this is where he, pure submission and trust in Allah, agreed to sacrifice, and Sayyidina Ismail himself, they agreed to sacrifice for the sake of Allah, something that was the most beloved to Sayyidina Ibrahim, complete trust, and Allah replaced it with the ram. So this is all where this is happening. Another thing that happened in Mina, in the Rasulullah camped there, and in the last days of Hajj, Surah An-Nasr was revealed here. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. And it is the surah that told Rasulullah that he will be meeting his Lord very soon. And the religion is complete, and people will enter this religion in hordes and hordes. It is also the place where Surah Al-Mursilat was revealed. So historically, I cannot begin to explain everything that is important in Mina, but this is now the night before Hajj. So you are praying, you're getting yourself ready, you are also resting a little bit, because tomorrow is a big day. And we need to prepare ourselves for that big day, that when that Fajr comes in, it is the dawn of what is Hajj. For Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that wuquf at Arafah is Hajj. There are numerous ahadith. If you open the 6 books of ahadith, and in the chapter of Hajj, there is hadith after hadith after hadith that says that Yawm Al Arafah is Hajj. And you will find many ahadith in many books and in the tafasir of these ahadith that Yawm Al Arafah is a direct correspondence to Yawm Al Qiyama. So Yawm Al Arafah is also equivalent to Yawm Al Qiyama. So the next day after the Zawal, and Imam Ghazali quotes that after Zawal, it is sunnah to do ghusl if you are able to, and if the facilities permit that. You then proceed from Mina towards Arafah. Arafah is called Arafah because Arafah in the Arabic language is from the verb Arafa ya'arifu. He knew. This is the certainty that happened with Sayyidina Ibrahim. So on Yawm Al Tarwiyah, the 8th of Zulhijj, Sayyidina Ibrahim saw the vision. The next day, when the visions were repeated 3 times, Sayyidina Ibrahim was certain that this is a command from Allah Azza wa Jal. This is why it is called Arafah. And then it is a day that I will explain to you how it is corresponding to the day of resurrection. It is a day that mercy is going to descend. Your sins are going to be forgiven. You are going to stand here on that day, and the next time you stand here, it will be the day of judgment. So this is the first thought that we should have in our mind, that I am standing here now, but the next time I stand here, it will be a completely different scene. And I'll repeat what I said in the first lesson. إن من أعظم الذنوب أن يحضر عرفة ويظن أن الله تعالى لم يغفر له. that it is one of the most grievous of sins for someone to be present at Arafah and think that Allah will not forgive him. So this is why you have gone. You have gone so that you are standing there. This is your chance to stand there and ask for that forgiveness before the next time you will stand there, before the Yawm Al Qiyama. Because once we die, then the doors of forgiveness are closed. But this is your chance now. Whatever you have done, whatever baggage you have come with, you are standing before your Lord. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in one of a hadith Qudsi. A hadith Qudsi is when Allah is speaking, but it is a hadith, it is not the words of the Quran. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that when people are gathered on the plain of Arafah, Allah Azza wa Jal descends down to the first heaven and says to the angels, "Behold my servants. And my servants have come from every corner of the earth with disheveled hair. All they are doing is seeking my mercy." And then Allah addresses the people and he says, "O people, even though your sins were as numerous as the drops of the rain, or the waves of the sea, or the grains of sand, I have forgiven them all. O my servants, go forth while you are forgiven and pardoned. And also I will forgive on whose behalf the angels seek intercession." So this is not only the time to stand in dua, to open your heart out and seek, and literally this is your confession. This is literally your confession box. But also do ample dua for your brothers and sisters. Why? And for the whole ummah. Why? Because remember, you will do dua to seek forgiveness if you say, "Oh Allah, forgive such and such brother of mine and such sister of mine." Every dua that you do, and for your brother or your sister, an angel will do the same dua to Allah and say, "Oh Allah, whatever he or she has asked for his brother, I ask for him times 10. So if you have asked for forgiveness for one of your brothers, an angel is going to ask for your forgiveness, but times 10. And this and there are multiple angels, your own angels, your own protection angels. There are 10 of them. They are asking that as well. So imagine that Allah has said that he will answer the du'as of the angels. So seek forgiveness for yourself, but also for your brothers and sisters. And then also remember the day of judgment. This is the day when hellfire will be so close, and it will be coming towards humanity. It will be so loud and so scary. The whole of humanity will be petrified. It will be drawn back in chains by the angels who are guarding the hellfire, yet they will not be able to control it. And the only person who will bring a stop to that is Sayyidina Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Rasulullah sallallahu will get up and say, "Stop." And it will only be then that the hellfire will be stopped. Every nation will be gathered with their prophets. And how lucky are we to be the ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. When every nation will be gathered, they will see the hellfire and they will be so scared that they will run to their prophets. So every prophet will then say, instead of interceding for their nation, each prophet will send their nation to the next prophet. Sayyidina Adam will say, "Allahumma nafsi nafsi." I see my Lord. There's a long hadith on this, and I'm just going to take very small extracts of it for today. And Sayyidina Adam will say to his ummah that, "I have seen my Lord so angry today that I have never seen my Lord so angry before." And go to Sayyidina Nuh. And Sayyidina Adam ﷺ will say, "Allahumma nafsi nafsi," which means, "Oh Lord, myself, myself." And the nations will then go from Sayyidina Nuh to all the other prophets, including Sayyidina Musa and then Sayyidina Isa. And when humanity will run to Sayyidina Isa, they will say, "Go to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And all of humanity will run to Sayyidina Muhammad, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be sitting next to Allah, full of noor. And this is a Sahih hadith in all the 6 books of hadith. Huwa jalisun ala yamin al-arsh, on the right hand of arsh. Ala a'azam al-mimbar, on a beautiful pulpit. Min noorin, in light. Qad qusiya hulla khadra, and he will be wearing a green garment from the garments of Jannah. And humanity will say, Ya Muhammad, anta khatimul anbiya wal mursaleen. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ غُفِرَ لَكَ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. You are the last of the messengers. Allah has forgiven your previous and past sin. Are you not going to intercede for us? أَلَا تَشْفَى لَنَا عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ أَلَا تَرَى مَا نَحْنُ فِيهِ. Are you not going to look at us? And at that time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will stand up saying, Ana laha, I am for this. I am for this intercession. I am for this. وَيَخِرُّ سَاجِدًا لِلَّهِ. And Rasulullah will go into sajda, seeking intercession for all of his ummah. And فَيُنَادِيهِ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ, and Allah's voice will come, and it will say, Ya Muhammad, irfa ra'asaka wasal. O Muhammad, raise your head, wasal, and ask, washfatu shaffa, and intercede for whoever you want to intercede for. And then the intercession will start. Intercession is, and Rasulullah says, shafa'ati, my intercession, لِلْهَالِكِينَ مِنَ الْأُمَّةِ, are for those people who have those sins which would destroy them. So this is the day of judgment as it will pan out. On that day, stand there on Arafah and say to Allah, Oh Allah, if nothing, just make me deserving of that intercession, for it is not my good deeds that will help me enter Jannah, but it is your mercy and the intercession of your beloved. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So this is Arafah. You are standing there. And as you stand in Arafah, there are some du'as. So you will, of course, you will be reading the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and all of it. But at the same time, there are some mathur du'as. So Imam Ghazali advises us, and he says, وَلِيَكْثُرْ مِنْ أَنْوَاءِ التَّحْمِيدِ وَالتَّسْبِيحِ وَالتَّهْلِيلِ وَالثَّنَاءِ. But he also says, so basically do praise and glorification and read your imans and repeat your imans, your confessions of faith, and of course the eulogy. But at the same time, ask for istighfar, tawbah, and do your du'as, and do not stop talbiyah. So do a dua, read the talbiyah. So first start with the talbiyah. So taratan بل الأحب أن يلبي تارة ويكب على الدعاء أخرى, which means that talbiya then a dua, talbiya then a praise, talbiya then a dua. And the duas, which dua? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in the hadith, in a marfu hadith in Tirmidhi, خير الدعاء Yawm Al Arafah. The best of supplication is the supplication that is made on the day of Arafah. And then Rasulullah said, what is that dua? لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم اجعل في قلبي نورا وفي سمعي نورا وفي بصري نورا وفي لساني نورا. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. I'll read a bit of the translation. It's a very long and very beautiful dua, and I strongly advise anybody going for Hajj should take some copies of the the Kitaab Asraar Hajj of Imam Ghazali, because the du'as written in there are beautiful. And if Arabic is difficult for you, then all these du'as are also in English. And if all these du'as are difficult for you, then very, very soon the book of the Secrets of Pilgrimage for Children is coming out by Fons Vitae, I think within the next few weeks. It's a very small book, but it is beautifully concise. All the du'as are in there. So just take that with you. But it is one of the, and this is one of the Masur du'as, that, oh God, set light in my heart and light in my ears and light in my sight, and make easy for me my affair. O God, the Lord of praise, yours is praise, as spoken by us, and better than what we speak. And yours is my prayer and my sacrifice and my life and my death. And to you is my return, and from you is my reward. O God, I seek refuge in you from anxious thoughts and from the disruptions of my affairs. And the dua goes on and on. And if I show you my book here, there are literally 4 pages of this dua. But I will read some of it for you. Ilaha, inni a'lamu anna zanubi lam tubqi li indaka jahan, walakinnaka akramul akramin. O my Lord, Allah, Ilahi, O my Lord, due to my sins I no longer have any standing with you, nor is there any ground for my excuse, but you are Akramul Akrameen, you are the noble one. Ilahi, anta wa ana. Ilahi, oh my Lord, you are you and I am I. And Ana awadu ila zunub. I am the one who just persists and repeats. Awad is from aada yawd. It is somebody who keeps repeating the same thing again and again. Let me just see. I am sorry, I'm just reading. So, Ilahi, anta wa ana. That, oh my Lord, you are you and I am I. Ana uwadu ila zunub. I am the one who persists. Uwad, Oud is the root, but the same root for Eid, which means it comes again and again. Uwad is a person that just persists, keeps doing it and doing it. I am uwadu ila zunub. وَأَنْتَ أُوَادُ إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ. And you are the one who persists in forgiving, Ya Allah. So this, and then of course there is another beautiful dua. This is where we are advised to beseech Allah with Allah's words. And Ilahina, innaka qulta, indeed, Ilahana, O our Lord, indeed you have said, fi kitabika al-mubin, in your manifest book in the Quran. Li Muhammadin khatamin nabiyyin, you addressed the Prophet, the seal of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Kulil lazina kafaru in yantahu yughfar lahum ma qad salafa. This is Surah Al-Anfal, verse 38. Maybe note this down, because this is the verse that says that say to those who disbelieve, if they desist, means if they stop, that which is in the past will be forgiven. So you beseech Allah with these words and you say that, oh Allah, you said to Rasulullah to address the disbelievers who did not even read the kalama, who did not even testify to your oneness, oh Allah, that if they testify and they desist, which means they don't repeat disbelief, then all their past sins will be forgiven. So stand there and read the Shahada. Read the Shahada out loud and say, oh Allah, if a disbeliever's sin was forgiven, I testify there is no God but you. I testify in the Risala of your beloved. So forgive me, for we were told you will forgive those who say that. So beseech Allah in every possible way, every possible means that you can. And then, of course, there is the dua of Sayyidina Khidr. It is a long dua, and I think I'll just, I will skip it because we will carry on. But there is a dua of Sayyidina Khidr, which is it is also masur, that we are advised to read that dua standing in Arafah. The standing in Arafah is from the Zawal of the 9th of Zilhijj. So the 8th of Zilhijj, you have spent the night in Mina. You're supposed to be standing in Arafah. It is wuquf. It is called wuquf Arafah because it is difficult to stand all that time. You can sit down as well. But standing is because remember, Yawm Al Qiyama, you will be standing. So try and stand there. From Zawal of 9th of Zilhijj all the way from up to the Fajr of Yawm Al Nahar. But we will leave at Maghrib time for Muzdalifah. But this is the time. This is a once in a lifetime chance, because it is said, oh, somebody does Hajj every year. It is always your first Hajj, remember this. And it is also your intention, and it is advised that not only so if you have already finished your first Hajj, your Fard Hajj, you have done it. If you're going to go for Hajj again and again, try to do it with the baniya for somebody else. Somebody who is poor and cannot go, somebody who is ill and cannot go, somebody who has passed away and could not go, because you will get the reward anyway, but you're also fulfilling the debt somebody had for Allah. And remember, if you fulfill somebody else's debt, imagine what if yours was not accepted. But when you're giving somebody else's debt, that is always accepted. So always have that in mind. Always have that in mind, that try and do, if you're going to do Hajj again and again, that it is a badal Hajj. But we'll discuss the fiqh of it another time, inshallah. So now it is coming up to Maghrib time. And as it is ba'da ghurub al-shams. Now you are going to proceed towards Muzdalifah. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has strongly advised us. Just bear with me. I'm just going to check. There is something on the chat that I need to read. Okay, so Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam advised us, فَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يَكُونَ عَلَى السَّكِينَةِ وَالْوَقَارِ. Proceed with peace, sakina, and waqar, dignity, because remember, this is Arafah. There are millions of people there. You have just been near Jabal Ar-Rahmah, where Rasulullah ﷺ stood and did dua after dua after dua for the ummah, where he asked for our forgiveness. And then he advised with the congregation. There were about 100,000 people there, and he advised them that proceed with dignity and honor. And Rasulullah ﷺ commanded, and this is a command from Rasulullah ﷺ, وَقَالَ اتَّقُوا اللَّهِ, fear Allah, وَسَيَّرُوا سَيْرًا جَمِيلًا, and proceed gracefully. لا تطعوا ضعيفا ولا تؤجلوا مسلما. Do not tread. By tread, Rasulullah meant don't push the weak, and do not harm a Muslim in any way. So be polite, be pleasant. It is also a day that you will not just be taken into account for your actions towards Allah and you will be taken into account for how you are behaving with other human beings, because remember, this will also be the day of judgment. How do you behave towards others? If you have extra good deeds, are you going to go around looking for those who need those extra deeds? And it will be vice versa. So if you are short, there will be others who will put that into your account, their good deeds. So there will be a lot of human interaction that will happen. So bear that in mind. And remember, la jidala, you're in ihram, you cannot be angry. So for any reason. And then you have reached Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is where you are going to, I'm not going to go over the fiqh of it, where you're going to join the prayers in Arafah, and then you're going to join the prayers in Muzdalifah. I will leave the fiqh for a fiqh lesson, inshallah. We'll carry on with our spiritual lessons. And as you're leaving Arafah and you're walking towards Muzdalifah, this is now one of those times that you are going to read the Talabiyah out loud, quite loud. and literally beseeching Allah, raised hands, tariqa rafi'an sawtahu bit-talbiya. This is again an advice from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then as you reach Muzdalifah, you will say, Allahumma inna hazihi al-Muzdalifah, oh Allah, this is Muzdalifah, jama'ata fiha alsinatan mukhtalifatan tas'aluka hawaija فاجعلني ممن دعاك فاستجبت له وتوكل عليك وكفيته. I'll just translate that for you. Oh Allah, this is Muzdalifah. You have gathered here humanity who speak many tongues. Al-Sina, they are basically many nations who are speaking many different languages. Oh Allah, and they are beseeching you with very shall I say, lofty requests. They are beseeching you with great requests. Oh Allah, let me be amongst those whose requests you answer, no matter how lofty they are. So if they have asked a lofty request for themselves, let me be the one who gets it anyway. And tawakkal, and who have relied upon you, and you have sufficed them. So that is a dua, a masur dua that Imam Ghazali tells us. And then remember that it's a ritual part of your Hajj to stay the night in Muzdalifah. But it is said, and I will read the words, and they are beautiful words. فَأَحْيَاءُ هَذِهِ اللَّيْلَ الشَّرِيفَةِ مِنْ مَحَاسِنِ الْقُرُبَاتِ لِمَنْ يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ. أَحْيَاءُ اللَّيْلَ, give life to the night. So in English we say burn the midnight oil. Burn the midnight oil means that keep a night vigil, which means stay up as much as possible in that night in prayer, because this is one of the best actions that you can do. This is also the place for the fiqh. You are going to be collecting the pebbles. It is said, collect 70 pebbles. This is part of the fiqh of it, the physical actions that we have to do. But as you pick up a pebble, what should you be thinking? What you should be thinking, or as you are given the pebbles, that happens in most time in your little pebble bags, each pebble, remember, as you will throw each pebble, Rasulullah says that each pebble will remove from you a sin which would have destroyed you. So one of the muhlikats, a muhlikat is one of a sin that will completely destroy you on the day of judgment. It will be so heavy on the balance on the day of judgment that it will tip it. But each stone, each little pebble, hasad is the Arabic word, each little of that, and they are no more bigger than a date seed or a little, they're very, very tiny. But imagine that each stone is equivalent to one of your major sins. There's 70 of them. So that's 70 of your big sins. I am not talking about the small sins here. That's what you are getting rid of. That's what you're picking. That's the value of the stones. So that's what you collect at Muzdalifah. So that's what you are thinking. You are praying, you're reading the talbiyah, you are doing du'as, but it is one of the best nights to stay up. This is why it is said to do Hajj when you are in a good and fit state. Do not leave it very late, because remember, you were in Mina sleeping in a tent. You were then up all day in Arafah. You walked everywhere. You're now advised, it is ahabba, it is advised for those who are able to be up in the night at Muzdalifah. And then the next day is Yawm Nahar, where you have to do the stoning of the Aqaba. So imagine the physical exertion that is involved. Do not let that physical exertion come in the way of the spiritual importance of everything that you are doing. This is why prepare for Hajj. This is why get yourself physically fit for it. And Allah gives you that physical fitness anyway. Allah gives the motivation. I know of people who are so ill, but once they are there, they get that energy. Yes, but prepare for it. Prepare for it. So this is why. So now, the next day, you are going to at tulu shams, or qabl tulu shams. So before the sun has risen, you are now going to cross the wadi of Muhassir and go towards Mina. What is the Wadi of Muhassir? This is the next stage. The Wadi of Muhassir is basically a valley where we all know the story of Abraha. We all know the Surah Al-Fil, the chapter 105 of the Quran. This is where Abraha's army, Abraha was humiliated and destroyed, and so was his army of elephants. Rasulullah ﷺ advised us and all the pilgrims to, if they are on a ride, to sort of buck up their animals or their ride, so they could leave that wadi as soon as possible. Or if you're on foot, to literally run through it, because shayateen live there, and this is part of the sunnah to swiftly exit the wadi of Muhassir. This is also part of the Hajj journey from Muzdalifah to Mina. So now this is, so the 9th of Zilhijj, and the night of the 9th of Zilhijj has finished. After Fajr, this is now the Yawm al Nahar, which is the day of Eid al Adha for the rest of everybody, but Yawm al Nahar for everybody else. On this day, you are supposed to not just read the talbiyah, but you have to mix the talbiyah with the takbir as you walk. So you're reading the talbiyah, the labbaik, but then you have to start your takbeers, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar kabira, walhamdulillahi kasira, the whole of the takbir that we discussed in the first lesson. Read that and your labbaik together. But first read the labbaik, then the takbir of, we call them the takbir of Eid, but it is the takbir. So read that, it is the takbir of Nahar really. And as you are going to go, you are going to start with the pelting of the Jamara Aqaba, the biggest one. That's the only one that you have to pelt on that day. Now what is the spiritual, I told you about what the physical significance of each stone is. But remember what you are doing when you're pelting one of the jamaras. You are actually spiting the shaitan. This is the most painful act to the shaitan. This is it. This is the time when you will, and he tries his best. When he said in the first lesson, I told you that I will wait for them. I will wait for them when Allah cursed him and all of that, and he said, I will wait for them on the path. Of course, that was the path to Arafah, because that's the path of forgiveness, but here as well, because you are throwing stones at the devil, he puts doubts in everybody's head. So this is where you have to be mentally strong, spiritually and mentally strong, because a lot of people, as they pelt stones, they think, why am I doing this? It's a little jamara, it's a bit of concrete, really big concrete pillars now. What am I throwing this for? Remember and reinforce to yourself that you are just doing to show complete trust in Allah's decree, complete submission, servitude, bondage. There is no need to think of psychological justifications. Know that your intention is repeating the sunnah of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, where it was complete servitude of mind, body and soul. We are imitating that. We are casting any doubt that the shaitan will put in our minds, because he will do that. And because remember, for each stone, what are you getting rid of? Shaitan's ultimate aim, that you end up in hellfire. Everything you do in Hajj is to protect you from hellfire. So this is where he's at his most vulnerable, isn't he? So this is where you will, by throwing the stones, you are throwing the stones in the face of the devil. You're relieving yourself from the snares of the devil. You're really just spiting his face, really. So this is a Rami. And of course, I'm not going to go over the manasik that you then the next day you have to go to Mecca, do your tawaf ziyarah, you do your sa'i, you come back for the other stoning, because the spiritual aspect of the stoning stays. It doesn't matter. That's what you need to bear in mind. And then once you've done the stoning, of course, that is also the day of Ihya. It is the day of the sacrifice. And Rasulullah said that for every part of the sacrifice offered, God will deliver a part of you from hellfire. So every limb of the sacrificial animal that you sacrifice, a limb of yours will be delivered from the hellfire. So the more ample and the more comprehensive the more ample the parts of the animal, the more comprehensive the redemption. Sayyidina Umar alayhi salatu wassalam was going to purchase a big camel for the sacrifice, and then he looked at, and the person who was selling him, of course, was selling him for a bit of an extortionate price. And Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu an said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, shall I instead buy 3 cows for the same price? And Rasulullah said no, because, and then this hadith was said that it is so buy a good animal if you can, of course, because the more ample the body parts, the more comprehensive your redemption. It is also said that, so as we so this is the significance. Of course, it is also then what should be your niyyah. So when you are doing let me just sort of read. So when you are doing the sacrifice, there is a masur dua. The dua is, of course, you will say let me find it. Yeah. Allahumma minka wa bika wa laka wa taqabbal minni kama taqabbalta min khalilika Ibrahim. Oh Allah, minka, from me, bika. And bika can be translated as with you, but also in you. Walaka, and to you. And accept from me this sacrifice the way you accepted it from your Khalil, from your friend Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. So this is the dua that you read. Of course, we can't physically, women can't do it anyway, but men aren't allowed to do the sacrifice themselves, but that is the intention. So you should read this dua anyway. This is the dua that you're supposed to read as you are actually sacrificing the animal. And then, of course, this is the dua. This is when you also think that every hair on that animal will be, because remember that is part of their body. A sin will be forgiven and a good deed put in your account. The same will happen as once you have done the sacrifice, and then the shaving of the hair happens. For as you shave the hair, there is a beautiful dua. Allahumma asbitli bi kulli sha'aratin hasana. Oh Allah, establish for me, for every hair, a good deed. Wamhu anni biha sayya, and remove from me with every hair a bad deed. Warfa li biha indaka daraja, and elevate my rank with each hair. So imagine every hair on the animal and one of your ranks is elevated. Your ranks are elevated in the malakut, of course. You see yourself how you are in the mulk because you see your physical body. But elevation of rank is meant that how the angels see you, how the spirits see you, how everybody in the malakut, which is the next dimension, they see you, which is basically they see your heart, how polished it is, and what is your true rank, in what is your true status. That is when we say, oh Allah, rafi ad-darajat, elevate my rank. So this is the spiritual background of all the little things that are happening. When you are sacrificing, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that khairul udhiya kabshul aqran, which means the best sacrifice is a horned ram. And there are colors, there's a very detailed explanation Imam Ghazali gives that what kind of animal you should look for. It's very difficult for us to particularly choose that, of course, but there is a detailed description of what kind of animal was advised by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to choose for that sacrifice, because it is said that it will be that animal that we sacrifice at Hajj which will help us and carry us on the Pul Sirat on the Day of Judgment. So choose well, basically choose well. I am just going to see if I am, yes, of course. So, and of course there was a dua that said that so now you have done the you have shaved the hair. For women, this is a little bit of advice for my sisters. They feel they miss out. That for a man, he's like shaving his head, and for every bit of hair that is shaved, a sin is given and a good deed is put in their balance, and a daraja is raised. What should women do when we're only told to clip like a little bit or an inch of the hair? I would say to you that look, it is not the amount or the length of hair, but it is the number of hair that are clipped. Yeah. So if you're going to cut an inch, literally do a trimming of all your hair an inch. And that is the same number of hair that a man will shave off when he's shaving his head. Of course, we all know the fiqh of it, that the Rasul did dua 10 times for somebody who shaved the head, to somebody who did a trimming, but that does not apply to women. So don't feel bad there. Don't feel bad there at all. And then, of course, when you're throwing the stone, so of course then you will go now. So now once you have shaved your hair, the first, so ihram, which we did, remember the state of sanctification, the first stage of sanctification is minimized, it's not removed. You will now have to go on the same day. It depends on, of course, your travel arrangements, but I'm obviously talking ideal. The same day you then go back to Makkah Mukarramah. This is still the Yawm al Nahar, and you do the Tawaf al-Ziyarah, which is now one of the fard part of your Hajj. We discussed all the spiritual aspects of tawaf in, I think it was my second lesson. So I'm not going to go over it again because the spiritual things apply exactly, but this is now the fard tawaf. So of course, be very, very careful that you do not indulge in anything, because remember, tawaf is just like prayer, except that you can speak in it, but you cannot speak anything other than good. So there is no such thing as your mobile phones and things like that. You cannot do that. This is not a fiqh ruling, this is a spiritual advice. So you've done your tawaf, you have then done, of course, the nafal that you have to read, and then you have to go and do your sa'i. You then, of course, drink your zamzam with the niyyah that Rasulullah advised us, that the zamzam is, the water of zamzam is for anything it is drunk for. So do your niyyah for health, for healing, for shifa. And then you are going to come back, of course, to Mina to complete the rest of the manasik of Hajj. But once you have done your tawaf al-ziyarah and the sa'i that follows it, you are allowed to take your ihram. You are now not in the official state of sanctification, but you still have to complete the manasik of Hajj. So this sort of brings us, I'm just going to see what shall I carry on. So this is now where you're going to come back to Mina. And now you will carry on with the pelting of the shaitan, the other jamaras. You will now continue with the du'as, but the main manasik of Hajj, which were the fard and the wajibat of Hajj, you have done. Staying in Mina should inculcate in you your natural self. That, remember, this is, of course, you can have a shower, you can now change, and suddenly imagine that from the day that you put the ihram on, you weren't applying deodorants, you weren't applying perfume, you were, even if you were washing with water, you were not washing with some perfumed soap or anything like that. You were not allowed to use any of that. You weren't allowed to remove dirt from your body. That's you. I mean, that's us. That's human beings. This is our natural state. And why the pride then? This is what the state and the residents in the camps of Mina should teach us. That why do we feel that we are better than others? Because of the worldly gains. When Hajj teaches us that it actually means nothing. You're all equal. You all are producing the same bodily fluids and secretions. You are all, if stripped bare of everything, we are all a creation which, if not looked after, is not a very pleasant creation. That's what Mina teaches us. And that is the thought that we should bring back with us. That when we start forgetting, and when we can afford to buy the most expensive perfume, and when we can afford to buy the best of clothing, or for ladies, the best of makeup, I don't know. But we should keep remembering what Mina taught us. So this is the this is Hajj. This is the spiritual Hajj. And inshallah, in the next lesson, I am going to go over the beauty of radiant Medina, and the visit to the best of creation, to for our as you call our attending in his blessed presence. In great detail, and I do intend to cover a bit of the historical elements. So inshallah, but today I think I will end with the dua of Sayyidina Khidr, which I sort of skimmed over, just because it is a beautiful dua. While I'm looking for that dua, I am going to remove my, so until, if anybody has any questions, do you want to ask any? Moved my mic, so my sound might have gone a little bit, but if anybody has any questions, that would be a good time to sort of ask it. From Maryam, let me have a little look. MashaAllah, Maryam, that is good.
Ustadah, there's another question.
Sorry, let me put the volume up.
Yeah, there's a question from Sister Maham on text.
Okay, let's have a little look. I wanted to ask, what can we, as we aren't fortunate today, say, do the mix most of this month, please. The first 10 days of Zilhijj are the best days of the whole year. It is advisable to, of course, fast the first 10 days. It is, and imagine every day of Zilhijj. If you have listened to my lectures and my lessons, if you're going to work and if you're going to be at home or something, but mentally try to be there. Mentally try to imagine, okay, this is Yawm al Tarwiyah, this is what will be happening, and try to, in your mind, go through those stages, try to read the du'as. So as you're fasting in the day, of course, there will be times that you can practice that. And if you can get your hands on Imam Ghazali's book, then please do that. Imam Ghazali has written down all these du'as, and in just literally there are 5 pages of du'as. There are literally 5 pages of du'as here, and if you cannot get hold of it, I'm sure if you Google it on ghazali.org, Kitaab Asraar al Hajj, there's an English translation of it. So yeah, that will keep you busy, I promise you. So I will end with, and then what I will do is I'll stop the recording and we can carry on with our questions, inshallah. يا من لا يشغل شأن عن شان يا من لا يشغله سمع عن سمع ولا تشبه عليه أصوات ويا من لا تغلطه المسائل يا من لا يبرمه إلحاه المحلين أزقنا برد عفوك وحلاوة ورحمتك. So this is Sayyidina Khidr, and he, O most generous one, my God, you are you and I am I. I persist in sin and you persist in forgiveness. My God, if you do not have mercy except on those who obey you, to whom shall sinners like myself betake themselves? My God, I intentionally have avoided your obedience and have gone straight into disobedience. Glory be to you. How irrefutable is your case against me, and how generous is your pardon towards me. By the decisiveness of your case against me and the futility of my case against you, by my need for you and your lack of need for me, forgive me. Forgive me, O Allah, O best of those who are called upon by any petitioner, O most gracious of those who are besought by any solicitor. And the dua continues. O you whom nothing diverts from anything, whose hearing does not dwarf from hearing, and whom voices do not confuse, you who are not distracted by my appeals, and for whom language do not differ, O you who are never vexed by the importuning of those who importune, who are never annoyed by the appeal of those who appeal, allow us to know the coolness of your pardon. Ameen Ya Rabbul Alameen. And allow us the sweetness of your acceptance. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzata amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.